have a few days left of 2018. You already got my top 10 worst movies of 2018. If you haven't checked that out yet, I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check that out. But now we're on to the good list, the top 10 best films of the year. And this one was a lot more tough than my top 10 worst because there were so many good films that came out this year. So there's going to be a fair amount of honorable mentions before I get into my list, which are American Animals, Ready Player One, Black Panther, Blindspotting, Black Klansman, Annihilation, and You Were Never Really Here. All those films I really enjoyed this year, but they just barely missed the cut for the top 10. I mean, like I said, there's so many good films. Before I move on to my number 10, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Some of the films you really enjoyed this year. Let me know what you thought were the best films in 2018. Let's get a discussion going. Let's talk about what films I really enjoyed that came out this year, because there are so many. Like, I didn't hit every film that I saw this year, but I saw a fair amount of them, so this list was really tough. But move on to my number 10. The Hate U Give was one of those films that really surprised me because I wasn't expecting such a good film to come out of this. It was a really thought-provoking, really interesting message kind of film that really impacted me in a lot of ways, and it was one of those films that really make you think about the, the subject matter is very prevalent in today's society, unfortunately, about police brutality and all that. And Amanda Stenberg does a really great job making you care and just feel for this character and what the stuff she goes throughout this film, dealing with her friend being shot, in cold blood by the police. And her dad as well, Russell Hornsby, definitely gives one of the best performances I think personally I've seen this year. I hope he gets some type of award recognition for it. But yeah, I definitely recommend The Hate U Give. It's one of the very more impactful films I've seen this year, and it's probably important to show people. It's one of those really important films that you definitely need to see. A Quiet Place is definitely a really fun, entertaining horror thriller. I mean, John Krasinski did a really great job crafting this world where if you make a noise, these monsters will come and kill you. I mean, it's a very scary concept, especially because everybody makes noise throughout the day. But not only that, but Emily Blunt does also a phenomenal job. She kind of even surpasses John Krasinski sometimes in some scenes, but just the whole thriller aspect of them just being quiet the whole time, having to communicate with through sign language, really interesting, fresh idea that I really enjoyed. I genuinely was like on the edge of my seat watching this film for the entire runtime, just like didn't want to make a noise while I was watching it. Was really paranoid about making noises after that, and that really just shows you how impactful this film is when it makes you wonder about things in the real world as well. But really great performances. Emily Blunt is amazing in this. I liked her a lot more in this than Mary Poppins Returns, which is why I didn't include Mary Poppins Returns at all. I think if she's going to be awarded for anything, it should be this performance. Now, I know I'm definitely going to lose some people with this pick, but I really enjoyed Hereditary. I know it's a very divisive film. Most people, either you love it or you hate it. I really enjoyed it. Not only just because it's a really creepy film, but it's not a conventional horror film, which is probably why a lot of people don't like it, because it's, it was billed, like, in the trailers as a more creepy, atmospheric, kind of scary film, but it was definitely more of a family dysfunctional kind of drama with some really slow building elements involved, and I can see why that would turn off a lot of people, especially when they were going and expecting this crazy over-the-top horror film where people were lit on fire and crazy stuff like that. But like, you break it down, it's just a really slow burn, dysfunctional family drama with some really creepy elements, and I really like that. I like that it's the build-up, the slow build-up of everything in this film as it comes together, and then it all hell breaks loose later on in the film, and it's just like on the edge of your seat, unnerving kind of stuff. And I enjoy horror films. I mean, this is definitely one of those divisive films. I can see why. If you don't agree, that's fine, because I'm used to that. But I really personally enjoyed the slow build-up, although the ending kind of lost me a little bit. But Toni Collette definitely deserves a lot of praise for her performance. She was phenomenal in this, even if the ending did lose me. But I still really enjoyed the film. I know, back-to-back controversial picks, but hear me out. I really enjoyed Suspiria. It just felt like a very entrancing watch. Like, I was just lured in, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, which almost makes sense with the subject matter about the school and its, evil purposes and all that. But I just really enjoyed this film. It was a slow burn. It is a long film. It's like 2 hours plus, but once you get invested in the film, you really start to get interested in Dakota Johnson and what goes on in this school with Madame Blanc, played by Tilda Swinton. And I really just enjoyed the creepy vibes and the great atmosphere that the time period it's set in Berlin. And Luca Guadagnino does a really great job making these really jarring, shaky, kind of crazy shots that really just impacted me, and it really left me unnerved. And I think that was the point of the film, just leave me kind of on the unnerved. And there's also some really gross stuff in this I'm gonna leave. If you know what I'm talking about if you've seen Suspiria, which could throw some people off, but I genuinely enjoyed it. It gets a little really wild towards the end, a little too wild for my taste, where I actually I watched this film a couple times now, and it makes a little bit more sense now, but in the sense, when you watch it, it's a little jarring. But overall, I definitely recommend this film. It's not for everybody, though. Mandy was such a very surreal experience just because of the crazy lighting that you see in this with the neon pinks and all that. So visually, it's stunning. It's definitely one of the best visuals I've seen all 2018. But not just that, but Nicolas Cage, this was kind of like his return to form, because he's made a lot of pretty bad movies over the last decade or so, unfortunately, but I feel like this is him back in his element. This is, you know, this was like a perfect film for him, and probably one of the very few people that could pull off this crazy, surreal performance. And not only, I mean, it's just like the most batshit crazy shit, and it's the perfect stuff for Nicolas Cage. And the second half of the film, he just goes completely nuts. I don't know how else to describe this film other than it's completely nuts. It's just a fun ride. Visually, it's amazing. I definitely feel like it's one of those trippy acid trip kind of watches where you're watching the lights and all that and you get kind of entranced and the visuals alone. But then on top of that, Nicolas Cage is going batshit crazy for the last half fighting these people with this crazy battle axe. It's just a huge, awesome, fun time. I definitely recommend Mandy. I don't know how Tom Cruise keeps doing it, but he keeps making these Mission Impossible films, these last couple ones, better and better each time, and Fallout somehow is even better than Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation. These films are just so crazy fun, popcorn entertainment, summer blockbusters that you've come to expect, and some of them they're disappointments, but these ones don't. I don't know how they do it. These films are so fun. Tom Cruise is obviously doing these crazy stunts, really great storytelling as well. The story in this really kept my interest throughout, and freaking Henry Cavill with his great mustache and his cock and arms fighting, he's definitely a really great addition to this franchise for this film. Definitely one of my favorite villain characters, actually, of all 2018, personally. You know, obviously there's a couple more that are better than him, but he's definitely in the top 3 or 4. But this film is just such a blast. Not only that, but the crazy stunts you see, like the halo jump and stuff like that. This film is just balls to the wall, crazy fun from start to finish. And it's like a little, like 2.5 hours long, and it doesn't feel it because you're just having fun the whole time watching this. I love this film. I love this franchise. It's a very underrated franchise when you really think about it. But I just hope they keep pumping out these films with the same quality. So kudos to Mission Impossible Fallout. Avengers Infinity War, as a fan of the MCU, I thought it was a very fun, exhilarating ride, worth all of the wait and the culmination to everything we've seen over the last 10 years or so. Josh Brolin as Thanos was phenomenal. I think he was definitely one of the best villains of the MCU, not just of the MCU though, but of the entire 2018. He was just a very formidable foe, and you actually understood his motivations, and he actually started to make sense a little bit, which was a little weird, but it was really impressive how they juggled all these different characters from all these different franchises and put them all into one film, and gave them almost all pretty much equal screen time, keeping the story engaged while we're all separated a little bit. But it still kept my interest. And it's a long film, but it really was just a fun blast. You know, Thanos, like I said, was great. Iron Man, in that battle with him with Iron Man was one of the crazy parts. Overall, you know, between all that stuff and the battle in Wakanda at the end, that's probably one of my favorite battles of the entire year, just in any film as well. Very fun film. Definitely recommend Avengers Infinity War if you haven't checked it out yet. It's actually on Netflix now. I've been loving this movie ever since it came out. Bradley Cooper did a phenomenal job crafting this remake of this film that we've seen time and time again, but this time I think is the definitive version. I've really loved it so much I even bought the poster for it. It's up in my background. It's been there for a while, actually. But not only just the story behind it, but the chemistry between Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga is just off the charts amazing. Lady Gaga deserves all the praise in the world because she's, you know, I mean, she is kind of playing a caricature of herself, but it's believable because you can't even really tell sometimes that's Lady Gaga, just like how you can't tell sometimes it's Bradley Cooper because he's engulfed in the character of Jackson Maine, which reminds me, the soundtrack for this film is one of the best soundtracks I've probably ever heard. I still listen to it pretty much every single day. Some of the songs in this definitely deserve some Oscars. I definitely feel like not only just like they're fun to listen to, but there's also some songs that are really sad. I don't want to go into details because they are kind of sad songs, but this, not only that, but Sam Elliott's amazing as well. The whole cast and crew, the soundtrack, the shots that are, you know, with the live outside concert scenes, everything in this film is just so fun and entertaining, and it's just such a great film experience. Unfortunately, I did have to wait until Roma came on Netflix to check it out because no theater around here was showing it, but I was genuinely really stunned at just how good this film was, because I knew there was a lot of buzz going in at just how good this was, but I figured that, you know, maybe they're just overhyping it. But no, I thought it was really spectacular, not only just from the black and white visuals, but the actual characters that I got invested in emotionally throughout the film. And I think it also added the fact that I actually had like almost like no idea who any of these actors or actresses were, so they really just seemed like regular people, and I feel like that was really a good bonus to the fact that I felt for these people because I didn't know who they were. It didn't take me out of the moment that they were like some big superstar in this film. But really enjoyed it. I definitely recommend checking it out on Netflix if you get a chance. You're going to love it. It's definitely one of those tales that may make you cry, actually. It's one of those films that I definitely feel like could, you know, hit you in the heartstrings, but definitely worth a watch on Netflix. Into the Spider-Verse was just such a fun, unique film, just not only in its visual style, but its storytelling, and just seeing all these different Spider-Men and women coming together in one film. It's just a really great concept that I wish that had been explored earlier. Just the, you know, the coming-of-age story of Miles Morales. Of course, we've seen many different coming-of-age stories and, you know, superheroes growing into their powers and all that, but it's just done in such a fresh, new kind of way in this film where you really grow to love Miles Morales and all these different Spider-Men from these different Spider-Verses. And then not only that, but they have some really great different character traits as well. You know, you got like Spider-Man Noir played by Nicolas Cage, and you got like Spider-Ham by John Mulaney, Haley Steinfeld, Spider-Gwen, so many other great pieces. It's just really fun how they built upon the lore of all the decades of stuff we've seen from Spider-Man, but just elevated it. You know, it's fun to see Miles Morales in this story, and you really feel for him, and you actually come out of this really wanting more Spider-Verse films. I hope they make more. It's just such a fun, unique, fresh film that I definitely it deserves a lot of praise. It's not just my favorite film, it's definitely my favorite animation, actually, of this year as well, because I mean, usually, you know, people kind of knock on animation, but this is definitely a great film overall. It doesn't matter what age you are, you can enjoy this no matter if you're a child or a full-grown adult or your grandparent. Like, it's fun for all the ages as long as you like superheroes and stuff like that. That's why I had to give Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse my #1 spot. So yeah, that was my top 10 movies of 2018 list. It was really tough to narrow it down to just 10 with the honorable mentions added as well, but like I said before, leave a comment below some of the films you thought were the best of 2018, whether I touched upon them or I left some out, because I didn't get to every single film this year, unfortunately. So I, of course, left some out, but maybe because I didn't enjoy them as much, or just because I didn't see them entirely. But thank you so much for checking out my video. If you enjoyed this, feel free to leave a like, hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with my movie reviews, trailer reactions, rankings, unboxings, and more. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.